Hey besties, here's a 1-hour version with no BGM. This is a collection with no extra sound effects, perfect to listen to while eating or falling asleep. Enjoy the show, everyone. I was reborn 7 days before the blizzard apocalypse. In my past life, I died on a night where it was 666 degrees below zero. The ones who pushed me out of, stripped me of my, and snatched my very last piece of chocolate, were my boyfriend of 4 years, Phantom, and the sister I had spoiled, no money. Before I died, I was so cold, I only hated myself for being so blind that I couldn't see those two ungrateful snakes for who they really. When I opened my eyes, I sat up with a start. I grabbed my phone to check the time, March 5th, 2066. 7 days before the blizzard apocalypse. I had been reborn. Just as I was coming to a gentle voice came from the bedside. You're awake. I poured you. No money was smiling innocently. But the next sec, a clear voice rang directly in my head. Humph, my stupids, hurry up and hand over your bank. Once the snow starts, I'll kick you. You can freeze to death. Your house and my whole body went. I looked at no money. Her face still wore that, and her lips weren't. It suddenly hit me. I could actually hear her inner thoughts. I forced myself to stay calm and took the cup. That's very. No money's eyes lit up, and she immediately started her act. We're family. Oh, by the way, could you buy it for me first? She's got more money than brain. Might as well milk her for. I sneered inwardly, but said flatly, I'm short on cash lately. I'm not buying it. The smile on no money's face froze. How can you be like this? Just then, my boyfriend Phantom pushed the door open, carrying breakfast. In a doting tone, he said, I bought your favorite sandwich. But I could hear his inner thoughts loud and clear. Coax her for now. Once I get her house and savings, I'll run off with Xiaohua and leave her to freeze to death. In my past life, his gentle and caring act had me completely guessed. He'd been seeing Mei Qianhua all along, plotting to steal my money for a vacation. Now, I just find him repulsive. I pushed the breakfast away. No thanks, I'm not eating. His expression darkened. What's wrong with you today? Why is she acting so weird? Did she find out about me and Xiaohua? I didn't bother. I looked him in the eye. Nothing. I just realized that some people look human, but their hearts are rotten. Both their expressions shifted instantly. I ignored them and left to liquidate my assets, stock up, and reinforce my home. For the next 7 days, they kept pestering me. Mei Qianhua tried to act cute. Why'd you buy so many quilts? I get cold. She's loaded anyway. It's free for the I'll grab whatever I can get. I shook her off. My things have nothing to do with you. Phantom blocked my front door, his tone threatening. Too far. If you don't give me the money now, I'll just take it by force. Once the snow starts, I leaned against the doorframe and sneered. Marriage? You're not worthy. His mother even came. Xiaoming, your brother needs a. Give us your savings. I slammed the door in her face. I don't have any. If I couldn't hear that, I really would have thought they were family. 7 days later, a blizzard battered the windows. Power, water, and heat were all cut off. The entire city turned into an icebox in an instant. I stood inside my safe house, reinforced with steel and airtight seals, listening to the wailing outside. A cold smirk played on my lips. The game has only just begun. Bang! 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 A violent open up! I'm freezing to Mei Qianhua wailed. Xiaoming, open the door! Phantom roared. I looked through the peephole. My stepfather, stepmother, and brother. All I knew they didn't have any supplies left at their place, but to come. I purposely kept the door shots first. Inner voice, I'm freezing to death. Inner voice, once I'm in, I'm stripping that. Inner voice, bitch. I'll kill her. The inner voice, once we kick her out, this house will. Inner voice, I'm going to slap that ungrateful. I finally spoke. My voice was calm. What are you? Mei Qianhua immediately started sobbing. The blizzard is too. We're freezing to death. Please, just let us in. We're family, aren't we? Phantom softened his tone. Xiaoming, I know you're angry, but the temperature drops so fast. You have so many supplies stocked. We need to help each other. But he was thinking, the moment she opens that door, inner voiced, I'm going to rob her. My stepmother began to wail. Xiaoming, we raised you for nothing. Open the door. I replied coldly, helping. In my past life, when you pushed me out to freeze to death, and stole my coat and my last piece of chocolate. Why didn't you think about helping each other? They were all stunned. I didn't bother. I exposed their filthy intentions. Stop. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're not here for warmth. You're here to steal my food. And then you'll throw me out to freeze, right? Silence instantly fell outside the door. Their faces turned pale. Mei Qianhua trembled in a panic. You've got it all. I'm not, she said, but her mind was racing. Inner voice, how did Phantom snapped in frustration. Stop wasting time. Open up, or we're breaking it down. I sneered. This is a blast door with steel reinforcement. You won't get in even if you kill yourselves. Clang! Clang! They were hitting the door like lunatics, pounding with sticks, smashing. But the door didn't budge. The blizzard outside grew more ferocious. Their voices shifted from arrogant to trembling, then to a complete. I stood behind the door in the spring-like warmth, watching their pathetic forms through the peephole. I laughed mockingly. The real show has only just begun. 3 hours into the blizzard. The temperature suddenly plummeted to minus 66 degrees. The howling wind hurled ice against the windows, creating a constant buzz. The entire building was shuddering in the extreme cold. My Qianhua, Fantong, my stepfather and stepmother, and my half-brother. All 5 of them and huddled together out. Their teeth were chattering, their bodies were turning blue, yet they still clung to the delusion of breaking in and stealing all my supplies. I leaned against my reinforced glass door, using my ability to see into their heart, every word they masked behind every malicious thought beneath their begging. I heard it all perfectly. Outside, my Qianhua's makeup was a smeared mess from her lips had turned a bruised purple. Her voice was pitiful and submissive. I really learned my lesson. Just give me a blanket and some food, okay? I'm almost frozen solid, but the hatred in her heart was practically overflowing. The first thing I'll do when I is pin you in the snow and watch you freeze to death. This house and all these supplies will be mine. I leaned back against the door. My voice was calm, but every word cut deep into her heart. You're still plotting against me. You apologize? Beside her, Fantong's voice was shaking from the cold, faking affection while hiding his malice. Xiao Ma, we've been together for 3, so you're really going to open this door right now, or I'm going to get violent. But in his head, he was screaming, that bitch. I'm freezing to death. Once I'm in, I'll ruin that face of yours. Then I'll strip you of everything you own. 3 years of in exchange for you pushing me out to freeze in my past. It was more than worth it. Go ahead, do your You won't get through this door even if you break every bone. I just sneer, refusing to. My stepmother stands with her hands on her hips. She stomps her feet desperately, shivering in the bitter cold. I raised you for over a decade. Your mother died young. And I've always yet deep down she was screaming, I'm freezing. Once I get in, I'm going to strangle this little, the kindest thing you ever did. Was pushing me out that door with your own 2 hands. And leaving me to freeze to. My stepfather puts on a stern face, but his legs won't stop shaking. Xiao, this house was ours to begin with. Hurry up and open the door. He was so filled with regret that his gut ached. If I'd known, I would have kicked her out then I wouldn't be suffering like this now. My house, my money, and my supplies, they have absolutely nothing to do with I've completely run out of patience. My voice suddenly rises, piercing through the howling wind and snow. The entire hallway vibrates with the sound. I'll say it one last. No entry. No food. No clothes. No apologies accepted. If you want to live, crawl back to your own pathetic place. Cower there and stay out of my sight. Seeing I was dead set against opening the door, and knowing they'd freeze to death if they stayed, they could only turn and flee in total disgrace. Mei Qianhua glared at the security door with resentment. But he didn't even have the strength left to throw a fit. Fantong gritted his teeth in fear, but he was so cold that even the strength to pound on the door was gone. My step-parents cursed and grumbled, clutching their tattered coats as tightly as they could. The youngest brother whimpered and wailed, snot freezing into icicles on. They could barely even keep. The 5 of them shoved and blaming one another. As they stumbled, like a pack of stray dogs, they vanished into the blinding blizzard, fleeing back to that shack that was no better than an icebox. I stood behind the door, a cold, cruel smile curling on. I knew better than they wouldn't be huddling for warmth once they got back. They would only point fingers, snatch from one and torment each other. This was the most satisfying retribution for how they caused my miserable death in my past. A few days later, the temperature plummeted to minus 288 degrees. Standing by the window, I could clearly hear the shouting and weeping from their house. My stepmother wailed from the cold, cursing my stepfather for being too useless. He called Fantong a worthless weight for not being able to handle us. Fantong threw things and called my Qianhua an idiot for not taking control of me sooner. My Qianhua shrieked and howled, brother, for stealing his last half slice of dry bread. The boy lay on the freezing floor, starving and cold, throwing a tantrum for food and warmth. No heat, no blankets, and not nearly enough food. With the bone-chilling wind howling through, they tore at each other in that frozen cellar of a house, accusing both hunger and cold. They were trapped in a living hell. In my previous life, they conspired to ruin me, leaving me to freeze to death in the sub-zero blizzard. In this life, I used my insight into their nature to guard my home. I watched it all with cold. As the apocalypse I was the one holding the spot, reborn from the wasteland to settle the score. I'll get my daughter to the shelter safely. And watch my husband's family destroyed. The ozone hole continues to expand. Lethal radiation will soon sweep the globe. Meteor impact countdown, 9 days, 5 hours, 17 minutes. Would all shelter slot holders please proceed to the shelter? I clutched my phone, staring at the confirmation text. A chill ran through me, then I realized I've been reborn. In my past life, my husband, Chang and his mother, Zhao Chunmei. Now, I'm back on the very day. The rules are clear. The holder can bring up to 3 immediate family members. Entry is granted only with a unique access must be present. I will never forget the tragedy of my last life. The news that I had won a slot was overheard by our neighbor, Lin Weiwei. Clutching her young son, she begged me, she pleaded with me to take them with us. My mother-in-law's charity suddenly flared up. She tried to guilt-trip me into it. My husband, Chang Xiaohe, backed her up the whole time. He said neighbors should look out for you, and that we couldn't just leave. The whole way there, I told them the slots were only for me, Xiaohe, his mother, and our daughter. There was no room for outsiders, but Xiaohe just brushed it off. We're already let's just get to the shelter first, then we'll figure it out. It wasn't until we reached the shelter gate, that I saw the truth. Lin Weiwei's son, looked exactly like Chan. He was the spitting image of him. My mother-in-law had known all, the four of them. From the very, only used me as a stepping stone to get those slots in my last life, to force the access code out of me. They broke my daughter's legs right in front of my eye. I died in agonizing unable to protect my daughter to the very end. Mom, are you okay? A soft little body lunged into my arms. Duo's warmth made my eyes sting with tears. I held my daughter tightly, my nails digging into my palm. I buried my burning hatred deep within. I can't turn on them yet. If I expose my hand now, Chang Xiaohei and his mother will lose their minds and try to stop me. I have to keep up the act until by setting this trap. Can I get my daughter to the shelter safely? I made an excuse to go out for supplies and slipped into a deserted electronics market. I grabbed a burner phone, inserted a temporary SIM card, and saved the number as shelter official. Then, I doctored the real notification I'd received, changing the number of slots to 6. I forged a text message that couldn't be verified. In this chaos, no one would think to check its authenticity. It's enough to fool Chang Xiaohei and his mother. Back home, I practiced in front of the mirror, perfecting a soft, harmless I dialed Chang Xiaohei's number, keeping my voice incredible, sounding intentionally tense. Honey, keep your voice down. Where else would I be? I'm at the office. His tone was dismissive. In my previous life, I thought he was working hard for our family. I didn't know until that he spent almost every day at Lin Weiwei's place, staying with his secret son. Listen to me. I got slots for the shelter. Don't let anyone else hear you. The other end of the line went silent and followed by Chang Xiaohei's suppressed excitement. Really? 6. That's 2 more, but the shelter has strict rules. If the news leaks, we must keep this. I emphasized my tone, baiting him into the trap. 6? His excitement practically burst through the receiver. Can bring a few more. That was exactly what I was waiting for. I spoke up, pretending. I was thinking, it's hard for Lin Weiwei upstairs to raise a child alone. Plus, she's always been. Since we have 2 extra spots, let's take the 2 of them with us. Chang Xiaohei paused for a moment. He feigned hesitation. Is that really okay? Those spots belong. It's fine. 6, and I'm sure Mom would agree. I played along with him. But my heart had already turned to ice. Less than 10 minutes after hanging up, my mother-in-law, Zhao Chunmei, rushed home. Chang Xiaohei followed right behind her. The 2 of them worked in tandem, pressuring me to show them the text message. With a straight face, I handed over the forged notification and password. The greed and calculation in their eyes were unmistakable. It was the exact same look from my previous life. I knew all too well, even with 6 spots, they never intended to let me live. Lin Weiwei and her bastard son were their real family. I was nothing more than a useful tool to them. Once they secured those spots, my daughter and I would be abandoned. Or even silenced. In my past life, after showing his true colors, he only stayed with me for my money. But I was prepared this time. In the fate shelter notification, I added that the recipient must be present. Otherwise, the password. So even if Chang Xiaohei wanted me dead, he'd have to wait until I got them into the shelter. Then I'll go tell Weiwei. Tell them to pack their things quickly. We leave tomorrow before dawn. Chang Xiaohei stood up impatiently, his steps quick and eager. I'll go too. She's a woman alone with a child. She can't manage it all. I'll give her a hand. My mother-in-law hurried after him, as if afraid of being I watched them rush away. A cold, sharp, curled onto my lips. Pack all you want. While they were dreaming of a happy family reunion, I sat on the sofa, holding Duo in my fingers gently rubbed my left shoulder, which I'd reddened with a hot towel. I made sure my face looked pale. At 11 p.m., I finally heard the sound of a key turning in the lock. Chang Xiaohei, my mother-in-law Zhao Chunmei, and Lin Weiwei and her son, who'd tagged along, walked in laughing and chatting. They still carried the lingering scent of the neighbor's home. Clearly, they'd spent the time plotting their schemes for the You're back, I said, slowly pushing myself up from my left hand instinctively clutched, my brow furrowed looking like I was in pain. Xiaohei noticed my movement immediately. He hurried over, sounding concerned, but his eyes were full of calculation. Honey, what's wrong with your shoulder? While I was packing for the shelter this afternoon, I accidentally put in. I lowered my voice, sounding apologetic. I was planning to take turns driving with you, but I don't think I can do. In my previous life, half an hour before departure, Xiaohei accidentally sprained his wrist. For the next few hundred miles as the apocalypse unfolded, I was the only one at the wheel. The 3 of them relaxed in the back, enjoying themselves. They didn't even offer me a sip of water. This time, I'm striking first. I'm killing any thought they had of dumping the driving on me. How could you be so careless? Xiaohei frowned. Though he scolded me, he quickly exchanged a look with his mother. They had a silent understanding. They still intended for the driving to fall on me. I saw right through them, and sneered inwardly, but I kept up my weak and helpless act. As we had planned, to avoid being noticed by the neighbors, since we had spots in the shelter, we set our departure for 2 a.m. The hallway was eerily quiet. Only a few scattered lights remained in the building. Everyone was paralyzed by the panic of the impending apocalypse. We quietly dragged our luggage downstairs. The parking lot was pitch black. I held Duo's hand, leaning silently against the car, waiting for Lin Weiwei and her. But we waited and waited. 20 minutes passed, and there wasn't a sound from upstairs. It was the same in my past life. We were as anxious as ants on a hot griddle, terrified of being seen at daybreak and missing our window to escape. Without a second thought, Chang Xiao pushed me forward, telling me to go back up and get them. By the time I brought them down, out of breath, they turned around and said with a smile, "He's a growing boy." It's fine if he sleeps a bit longer. They made me look like the petty, heartless one. In this life, I'm done being their doormat. Xiaoming, go up and get Wei Wei and Anin. Don't let them oversleep. My mother-in-law, Zhao Chunmei, spoke. Her tone was so entitled, as she dumped the errand on me. Chang Xiaohe chimed in, yeah. Hurry up. Don't waste any more time. It'll be trouble if someone sees. Lin Weiwei's son, Anin, is actually Chang Xiaohe's illegitimate. He's just as petty and malicious as Zhao Chunmei. In my past life, while I was driving, he would secretly pinch Duoduo's arm, steal her snacks, and even spit on her. If I showed even the slightest, the whole family would accuse me of being petty and picking on a child. This time, whoever wants to call them, I won't budge an inch. I stood my ground, motionless. Didn't you say Anin is a growing boy? I said flat. Let him sleep a bit. We don't mind waiting. My mother-in-law's face stiff. He didn't expect me to actually talk back. Chang Xiaohe's brow furrowed as he was just about to pressure me, but I simply looked down to adjust Duoduo's collar, completely ignoring their nagging. After a brief standoff, Zhao Chunmei realized she grumbled and headed toward the building entrance herself. You're truly useless. I'll go myself. Zhao Chunmei finally returned with Lin and Anin, walking down at a snail's pace. Anin clearly hadn't. His face was as dark as a thundercloud. He walked at the very back, head down. He was the walking definition of impatience. Chang Xiaohe immediately rushed over to greet, his voice sickeningly sweet. What's wrong? Didn't you? Are you tired? Do you want me to carry you? Rambling on and on, his eyes filled with nothing but. I stepped forward, interrupting his hypocritical display of a. Didn't you say Anin is a growing boy? Instead of wasting time, you should let him go back and sleep some more. Don't let it stunt his growth. Hearing this, Anin snapped his head up and glared at me, his eyes full of resentment. I couldn't be bothered to. I picked up Duoduo, opened, and sat directly in the back row. I let Duoduo lean against me, keeping her quiet and calm. Xiaoming, take Duoduo and sit in the front. Let Anin lie down and sleep in the back. It's more spacious. Seeing her my mother-in-law immediately tried, barking orders at me. Lin Weiwei also waved her hands fake politely. Don't trouble Xiaoming, but she didn't move an inch, clearly waiting for me to give up. I leaned back against the seat, closed my eyes, and didn't say. I was making it clear I wouldn't. Seeing this, Anin's face darkened even more. He gave the car seat a violent kick. Stop wasting. Lin Weiwei familiarly opened the passenger side door. Eat. Then she turned back to look at me. Ain't. With a look of disdain, she said, Xiaoming, you don't mind if I sit up front, do you? I kept my eyes closed, not even bothering to look at her. I ignored her completely. Lin Weiwei was snubbed, and she turned back around in embarrassment. Her face turned a sickly shade of pale. The car finally started moving, speeding toward the shelter. But less than an hour later, the highway ahead was completely blocked. An abandoned bus lay across the middle of the road. 5 or 6 cars ahead had collided violently. Keep. The metal was twisted, and glass was scattered. The way forward. This sudden disaster on the caused the simmering panic in the car to explode. Chang Anin lost it instantly. He slammed his phone onto the seat and screamed, do you all have shit for brains? Can't you even check the. You're leading us here to die. In my previous life, I was the one driving. All that verbal abuse would have been hurled at me. Chang Xiaohe's face darkened instantly. This was probably the first time he had ever lost his temper with his. How was I supposed to know the. Watch your tone with me. But Anin had been spoiled rotten by Zhao Chunmei. He was even more aggressive than Chang Xiaohe. Who the hell do you think? It's enough. Stop it. Lin Weiwei immediately shielded her, glaring at Chang Xiaohe with resentment. It's not Anin's fault the road is blocked. Why are you yelling at him? Chang Xiaohe finally snapped. Blinded by rage, he kicked the car door open. He stormed to the back and yanked the door open. I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget. Think you are. Why should I listen to you? Chang Anin wasn't intimidated at all. He stuck his neck out and talked. Chang Xiaohe was already acting on impulse. With his son provoking him like this, his rage became complete. He reached out and grabbed Chang Anin by the collar, raising his hand to strike. In a moment of desperation, Chang Anin kicked Chang Xiaohe hard in the gut. Chang Xiaohe stumbled back, but he didn't let go. The two of them instantly started brawling. Stop it! Stop! Zhao Chunmei shouted in a panic, reaching out to pull Chang Xiaohe away. In the chaos, her foot slipped, and she lost her balance. She slammed violently onto the ground. I held Duoduo, who had just, and cried out, feigning panic. Are you Zhao Chunmei tried to push herself up, put weight on her arm. Her face turned deathly pale. She let out a piercing scream. Everyone looked down and that her right arm was bent at a gruesome angle. The bone was clearly about to puncture the skin. It was broken. I gently patted Duoduo's back, my hidden hand trembling with excitement. In my plan, Zhao Chunmei was always meant to be the first to die. Now, it seems I won't even have to lift a finger. She's driven herself into a dead end. There's a mountain path ahead that requires both hands and feet to climb. With an injury like, forget about reaching the shelf, she won't even be able to walk. Zhao Chunmei lay on the ground, wailing in agony. She was drenched in a cold sweat from. It took her a long time to catch her breath, and she cried out to Chang Xiaohe, son, my arm is broken. Hospital. Hurry. Under normal, Chang Xiaohe might have panicked before, but it's the apocalypse. Hospitals have long been deserted. Radiation and meteorites could strike at any. Going to the hospital means giving up the shelter to die together. Chang Xiaohe stood there, his silence terrifying. There wasn't a hint of concern in his eyes, only irritation at his mother's lack of sense. I feigned panic, adding fuel to the fire. What are you waiting for? Hurry and take mom to— It'll be too late if we— Chang Xiaohe whipped his head around to glare at me, his eyes full of ruthless. He spat out every word. We're almost at the— If we take her to the we'll all end up dead out here. Zhao Chunmei's wailing stopped instantly. She looked at her own son in disbelief. Her body, trembling from the— went cold with despair. I held Duo and leaned against the car window, quietly watching this farce of a mother and son turning on, and the family tearing itself. A cold smile curled on my lip, unnoticed by anyone. This is just the beginning. In my previous— the pain their family inflicted on me and my daughter, I will make them pay it all back, bit by bit. Zhao Chunmei lay on the freezing pavement, her broken arms sending spasms of pain through her body. Her shrill cries echoed across the empty highway. But no one moved to help her. Chang Xiaohe looked down at his mother with cold eyes, feeling only the annoyance of being delayed. Lin Weiwei stood by, holding Chang'an, a smug look hidden on her face. Chang'an didn't even look up. He just kept playing on his as if the wailing old woman was a complete stranger. I held my frightened Duo, gently patting her back to comfort her. There was no pity in my eyes, only a bone-chilling coldness. Seeing Zhao Chunmei in such act brought me a wave of pure satisfaction. He forced me and Duo to starve during the apocalypse, and endure endless— This little bit of pain now is not even a 10,000th of what my daughter and I suffered. Chang Xiaohe, are you really going to just watch me die? Zhao Chunmei wailed at the top of her lungs, reaching out to grab her son's pant leg, only to be kicked away by a disgusted Chang Xiao. If you're not dying— Chang Xiaohe barked harshly. The car can't get through. We have to go around on— If you can walk. If not, then stay here. I spoke, my voice calm, but every word a dagger to her heart. You were always so good to Lin Weiwei and Anan. You gave them the best of everything. Now that you have a they won't even spare you a word of Do you regret it? Zhao Chunmei's wailing stopped abruptly. She turned stiffly to look at Lin Weiwei and her son, only to see coldness and disgust. That heart of hers, always so— now felt as if it were being pierced by an ice pick. You all. She pointed at Lin Weiwei, her eyes full of disbelief. Lin Weiwei rolled her eyes and looked away. Chang'an found her even more annoying, kicking a pebble at his feet. You're wasting our— I picked up Duo and got up, walking toward the mountain trail by the highway. This was the path I forged with my life in my previous life, and the only way to the shelter. It was rugged and steep, full of loose gravel and sharp slopes. It would be Zhao Chunmei's grave. Wait for me. Seeing, immediately ignored Zhao Chunmei and pulled Lin Weiwei and her son along to follow me. He knew I held the spots for the shelter. Without me, they wouldn't survive. Zhao Chunmei watched as everyone abandoned her. So panicked she even forgot the pain. She struggled to crawl up, but her broken arm was useless. She could only scramble pathetically, crying out for her son over and over. Don't leave me behind. I'm your mother. Chang Xiaohe didn't even slow his pace. Completely. Lin Weiwei hurried even faster. Terrified of being weighed down by that dead, I stopped at the base of a steep incline. The slope was slick and covered in loose gravel. The only way up was to climb on all fours. One slip and you'd plummet to the bottom. Chang Xiaohe stared up at the steep slope, his expression shifting he turned to look at me, that calculating glint returning to his eyes. Honey, you're light. Go up first and scout the path. I'll stay back here and look after Duo. Chang Xiaohe's tone was commanding, exactly as it was when he forced me up that slope in my previous life. I looked him in the eye and refused coldly. Chang Xiaohe's face darkened. He reached out to snatch Duo from my arms, trying to use my daughter to threaten me just like last time. I sidestepped him, my gaze cold as a knife. If you touch even a hair on Duo's head, even if I won't let you or Lin Weiwei and her son inside. He froze on the spot, seething with rage but not daring to say a word. Seeing this, Lin Weiwei immediately shrieked, why should we have to do it? If anyone's going, it should be Zhao Chunmei. She's so old anyway. Scouting the path was the words had barely left when Zhao Chunmei caught up, scrambling on all fours. Hearing that Lin Weiwei wanted her to scout the way, her face turned white as a sheet. She looked at Chang Xiaohe and sobbed, son, my arm is broken. I can't climb. You have to help. I cut her off and pointed to the hidden, slip-resistant grooves. No need to scout. I've taken this path It's safe. I took the carrier I had prepared and strapped Duo securely to my I scrambled up the steep slope on all fours, steady. My movements were swift and practical. Chang Xiaohe watched me ascend safely, pacing frantically in a pain. He had no choice but to force Lin Weiwei. Weiwei's legs turned to gel. She wept, refused. Chang'an, meanwhile, just sat, seeing how steadily I was climbing, couldn't contain his impatience and he yanked up the trembling Weiwei and shoved her toward the You go first. Your deal even if you Weiwei's legs gave out again, and she collapsed onto the ground. Clawing at the dirt, she wailed, I'm not This slope is too steep. I'll fall and why don't you go up yourself? If I could go first, do you think I'd care about you? Xiao, he needed to save his strength to protect Chang. He wasn't willing to take the slightest risk. Fine, don't go. But when we get to the shelter, neither you nor Anan will be allowed in. Chang'an, who had been playing game, heard this, and suddenly looked up, glaring at Weiwei. Hurry up. Don't stop me. You're so useless. His pierced Weiwei's heart like a knife. She looked at the cold-hearted father and son, tears streaking through the dirt on her face. Just then, Zhao Chunmei came crawling to the foot of the slope, dragging her broken arm. She grabbed Xiaohei's pant leg with a death grip. "Son," she rasped, "pull me up. I can walk. I won't be a burden." Irritated, Chang Xiaohei kicked her away. "Get lost." Zhao Chunmei was kicked backward, her broken arm slamming against the gravel once more. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the mountain. She looked at the son who had abandoned her, then at Wei Wei and her son, who just watched coldly. She finally broke down, sobbing, I truly regret it. I loved you, and yet, this is how you—" I stood at the top of the slope and spoke calmly. My voice carried down with the wind. It was too late for— "In our past life, you watched as they bullied me for supply. And pushed us towards Sir. Did you ever feel even a shred of mercy?" Zhao Chunmei's sobbing faltered. She stared at me with her cloudy eye, her face full of disbelief. "You knew this would happen all along? I didn't try to hide it," was eerily. "This path is your dead end. And it is the retribution." Qin Xiaohei finally realized that everything had been part of my plan. Burned with a— Pointing at me, he roared, "You lured us here from the very beginning. Why else?" Dripping with "In our past life, you forced me to carry Duo Duo. You threatened to throw her off the mountain if I even flinched. Now, it's your turn to taste that." Lin Weiwei was utterly— She knew I was a woman of my word. Shaking as she clawed at the steep slope. Gravel was— She barely made it 2 steps before her foot slipped, sliding her back down several feet. Her palms were scraped raw, and she looked half dead. Seeing his mother's pathetic state, Chang Nen showed no disgust. "You can't even climb a Lin Weiwei's heart turned to ice as she looked at her son. She looked at Qin Xiaohei, who— and despair washed over her. Qin Xiaohei had no— He shielded Chang Nen behind him and tried to find a way up, but he was heavy and he was already wobbling after just a— I watched with cold, without the slightest intention of help. Zhao Chunmei lay on with a broken leg and a shattered arm, her watching her family members only caring about their own. She finally understood. She had been nothing but a loathed burden from the very beginning. Her eyes were fixed on Chang Xiaohei's retreating back. Resentment and regret intertwined with total Finally, her eyes slowly drooped. She couldn't even let out one last whimper. Chang Xiaohei glanced back. Seeing his mother had gone still, he merely— There wasn't a shred of sad. Instead, he looked— The burden was finally— I held Duo and turned toward the shelter. My steps were— The cries and curses behind me, and the screams of terror were all left in the dust. Zhao Chunmei is— But my revenge is far from over. I carried Duo toward the shelter without looking back. The mountain wind whipped dust past my ears. The agonizing wails and curses behind me gradually faded into nothingness. Chang Xiaohei struggled pathetically on the steep slope. Loose rocks kept sliding out. He nearly plummeted several times. His palms were raw and bloody. His former arrogance was complete. Lin Weiwei clung to the mountainside, unable to move. She watched Chang Xiaohei and Chang Nen abandon her. She wailed in total but she would find no mercy here. Chang Xiaohei dragged Chang Nen upward. The boy sobbed loudly in terror. His usual bratty behavior had vanished, replaced by nothing but a child's— I didn't look back, not even once. I was the one stumbling down this road, clutching Duo. We were shoved and insulted, threatened and nearly killed time and time again. Duo cried every night while they just watched coldly. They even stole our last scraps of food. The pain and despair etched into my very soul. That it's only right they pay it back with their own misery. After walking for about half an hour, the shelter's iron gates finally came into view. The heavy doors were shut tight. Area was heavily— It was the notification I had tampered with. The lifeline I now held firmly in my— I pulled out the exclusive pass hidden in my pocket and swiped it gently against the sensor. The heavy iron gate slowly grew. The warm lighting, the abundant supplies, and the secure environment— This was the sanctuary Duo and I had fought so hard for after our rebirth. I looked down at Duo in my arms. She was already fast asleep, her little brow finally— The fear that once haunted her was gone. I gave her a gentle kiss on the forehead. Every ounce of tension left my body, replaced by nothing but tenderness, and the iron gate slowly slid shut behind me. The desperate Chang Xiaohei and Chang Nen. They were trapped on that steep slope, with no way up and no way down, no way forward and no way back. With no water and no shelter, the only thing waiting was the same fate that befell Zhao Chun. Out in the apocalyptic way, they would become nothing more than forgotten. It was exactly what they deserved. I carried Duo into the warm, bright shelter, leaving all the darkness and hatred far behind me. I woke up with a start from the frozen ruin, the piercing cold and hunger still clinging to me. But when I looked up, I saw the white wall and my old phone on the desk. It was all so familiar. With trembling fingers, I swiped open my phone. The calendar read April 3rd, 2188. 30 days before the extreme natural disaster, I had been reborn. In my past, my best friend Lin Shi and I grew up in an orphanage. We were each other's only family, but a week before the disaster hit, we had a huge fight over her blind devotion to her boyfriend, all our savings. To that senior who did nothing but use her for money. In a fit of rage, I told her he slammed the door. Not long after, torrential rains, extreme cold, water shortages, and power outages followed. The city's social order completely collapsed. I never heard from him again. I struggled alone in the ruins for 2 years, before finally freezing to death, and as I died, my mind was filled with his smiling face. In this life, I will never lose him again. I won't let the tragedy repeat itself. The moment I was reborn, I had only one thought: get money and stockpile. and keep Lin Shi right by my side. I rushed out the door like a woman possessed, using the winning lottery numbers I remembered from my past life. I went straight to the shop and bought that set. The results were announced. I stood at the redemption center, clutching the ticket, staring at the winning numbers on the screen. Tears instantly fell. After taxes, I walked away with 82 million. The moment the money hit, I immediately called Lin Shi. His voice sounded hurt on the other end. Still upset over our last argument. So you finally decided to call me? Didn't you say you'd never talk to me again? I choked back a sob. My voice incredibly serious. Let's make up. I'm not joking. I won 100 million and I'll take care of you from now on. You'll never have to compromise yourself for anyone else. There was a few seconds of silence. Then came Lin Shi's incredulous gasp. Xiao Meng. You're not lying to me. Did something happen to you? I'm transferring 2 million to you right now. Take a taxi to the Yunshan sales office in the suburbs immediately. Don't ask why. Just get here now. I hung up and sent the money. Then I caught a cab to Yunshan. It's a scenic area with detached villas halfway up the mountain. High elevation, far from the city, surrounded by nature and offering total privacy. It's the safest refuge for when disaster strikes. By the time Lin Shi, I had already finalized the deal for the house. He looked at the grand villa before him, then at the bank notification on his phone. He was completely stunned. He grabbed my hand, questioning me. I didn't dare mention my rebirth. I was afraid he'd think I'd lost. I just vaguely said I had a premonition of it and that we needed to prepare. Despite his confusion, he still chose to trust me. That's the kind of bond we've built over 10. The villa is perfect in every way, except the walls are too low. If there's civil unrest or extreme weather later, they won't stand a chance. I pointed at the low wall around the villa and spoke firmly to the salesman. Raise the wall by 1.5 meters. Reinforce the top with thickened concrete. Weld on sharp steel bars. Install double-layer outdoor floor heat and add a high-voltage electric fence. It must be finished within 10 days. I'll pay triple the labor cost. The salesman's expression shifted several times, but he was eventually swayed by the massive payment. Agreed immediately. After signing the contract, Lin Shi's phone rang. It was that his eyes darkened. He answered without his usual humility. I'm busy right. Don't call me again. You don't need to pay back the money I lent you. We're even. After hanging up, he looked at me with a relieved smile. I've moved. He never took me seriously. I was so foolish before. From now on, I'll do whatever you say. My heart finally settled. Next, we started a frantic hoarding spree. I rented 3 large trucks and headed to the largest wholesale market in the suburbs. I found the owner and threw down a shopping list. I said urgently, fill this order according to the list. It's for my supermarket chain. The faster, the better. I'll pay the full amount. Deliver them to the warehouse in the town at the foot of Mount. Any questions? The manifest was packed with survival supplies. 500 bags each of rice, flour, compressed biscuit, canned meat, canned fruit, and 200 cases of dehydrated, 1,000 barrels of purified, plus various grain seeds, and potato and sweet potato seed, cooking oil, salt, sugar, and seasonings. I stockpiled as much as I could. Then, I took Lin Shi and swept through the major supermarkets, pharmacies, hardware stores, and outdoor shops. Thick down jackets, windbreakers, and waterproof boots. I bought 100 sets of thermal underwear, anti-inflammatories, and first aid kits filled over a dozen crates. I stockpiled 5 tons each of gasoline, solar panel, storage batteries, and backup gen. I bought top-of-the-line water purifiers and heaters, anti-riot baton, fire axes, ropes, surveillance and drones. I didn't miss a single thing. Lin Shi was with me the whole time. At first, but then he started helping me pick things out. He even suggested we remodel the villa's courtyard. He gave up on his dream of planting roses everywhere, and had workers plant fruit trees that would bear fruit this year. He tore up the lawn and installed an automatic irrigation, preparing to plant it full of radishes and potatoes, veggies that store. Flowers won't fill our stomachs. It's better to grow vegetables. We'll be self-sufficient from now on. Lin Shi watched the workers as they worked, speaking to me with a smile. His eyes were full of hope for the future. Looking at his smiling face, I felt so incredibly. Luckily, I still had time. In just 5 days, the villa's renovation was fast-tracked. Basement was already packed to the brim with supplies. The fruits and vegetables were planted. The vegetable garden is all set. The roof is now covered in solar panel. I even had the garage reinforced. I also ordered an explosion-proof SUV, specifically for traveling during the disaster. There are 22 days left until the disaster strikes, but I know time is running out. That night, Lin Shi and I sat in the living room. Looking at the mountain view out, she suddenly took my hand. No matter what happens in the I'll stay with you. We'll never be apart again. I nodded firmly. I made a silent vow in this life, I'll do everything to keep her safe. I won't let the regrets of my past life happen again. It's been 28 days since my rebirth. And now, before the extreme disaster fully only 2 days remain. The mid-mountain has already been transformed into an impregnable fortress. Reinforced walls are topped with high-voltage electric fencing. Dual-layer floor heating keeps the house at a constant temperature. Independent generators and solar ensure a steady supply of. The water purifier runs 24/7, and the supplies in the basement are enough for the 2 of us to live for 10 years. The fruit trees in the courtyard are thriving. Sprouts are peeking through in the vegetable garden. We have over a dozen chickens and ducks and laying eggs every day. Everything is moving toward a stable future. Lin Shi and I are fully prepared. ignoring all the noise on my phone. I only focus on quietly waiting for that moment to arrive. Lynn, she has completely moved on from the past. She no longer mentions that senior. Check the villa's equip. Organize and tend the garden. Life is peaceful and ground. The custom explosion-proof SUV has been delivered with a reinforced an oversized and a supply rack. I specifically hired a coach to learn how and got my temporary license. Lin, she practiced with me a few times. It's barely roadwork. The night before the disaster struck, Lin, she and I were packing the last of the supplies. Just as we were about to the doorbell suddenly rang. Looking through the I saw a middle-aged stranger outside. The man was cradling an injured puppy, looking extremely the same designated who had driven our car back to the villa this afternoon. Alarm bells immediately went off in my head. When he left earlier today, his eyes were filled with greed as he looked at the villa. Up to me. Don't open it. I whispered, pulling Lin Shi back as she reached for the door. But Lin Shi was too. Seeing the poor puppy on the monitor, she couldn't help but open the door. It's freezing outside. Come in and bandage the puppy. To leave as soon as you're. The driver thanked her profusely, but his eyes kept darting around the house. As he looked at all our household items and the stockpiles of supply, he couldn't hide the greed in his eyes. Suppressing my anger, I quickly finished bandaging and told him to leave immediately. He gave the villa a meaningful look as he left, wearing a creepy smile. We need to be careful tonight. I locked the doors tight, bolting every single window and door. We turned on the cameras and took turns keeping watch. At 3 a.m., the piercing security alarm suddenly blared. I jolted awake instantly. I rushed to the monitor and saw 4 men gathered at the garage entrance. It was the driver and his accomplices, armed with iron bars and knives. They were prying at the garage lock. One of them was muttering, "These 2 women live in such a nice house. They must have stockpiled a lot of. We're taking them down tonight." Seeing the crowd, Lin Shi's face turned pale with fear. She gripped my hand tightly. I patted the back of her hand. "Don't be afraid," I said calmly. "Our villa is very safe. They can't get in. I'll handle this." I grabbed the fire suit I had prepared. I went down to the living room. I spoke coldly into the monitor. "I've already called the police. If you don't leave now, the police will be here." And the crowd was taken aback. But seeing the lights inside the villa, they weren't ready to give up. They began to smash at the gate frantically, but they didn't know that our walls were made of reinforced concrete. They couldn't break through. The high-voltage fence left them with no way in. In the middle of the standoff, the TV was suddenly overridden by an emergency broadcast. The anchor's voice was urged, their expression gray. Continuous extreme rainfall has broken out nationwide. Several cities are experiencing power and communication systems. Citizens must stay in a safe area, going outside at all. Before the news even a torrential downpour began outside. The wind howled fiercely. The distant city was instantly plunged into darkness. The power was out. The thugs looked at the sky that had suddenly turned black and listened to the raging storm. They panicked instantly, no longer caring about the rock. They scrambled away from the villa. I breathed a total sigh of relief. I turned and hugged the trembling Ling Shi. I finally revealed my secret. "I'm sorry I never told you. I've lived through this before. In our past life, when the disaster hit, I never found you again. I struggled alone for 2 years before I eventually froze to death." Her eyes were filled with shock, and then tears started to flow. She hugged me back tightly. I knew you had your reasons. I'm just glad we made up. I'm glad we're together." The heavy rain lasted. The city was completely submerged. Floods cut off all water and power. Shortages were everywhere, along with chaos. But our mountainside villa became a sanctuary in this. Inside, it was warm and dry. We had plenty of water. The fridge was stocked with fresh meat, and the basement was overflowing with supplies. The vegetables in the garden were thriving. We lived a life of Lin Shi and I would use high-powered binoculars every day to watch the situation below, watching the once bustling city turn into a watery grave. My heart was filled with heavy. We stopped paying attention to the chaos outside and focused on living our own lives, tending to the garden, cooking delicious meals, organizing our supply, and enjoying each other. Occasionally, survivors would pass by, seeing our sturdy villa and ample supplies. They'd want to knock and ask for help. From across the perimeter wall, we would hand out some food and water, but we never opened the gate. It wasn't out of cold, but to protect our final sanctuary. A month after the disaster began, the weather gradually turned cold, but inside our villa, it was as warm as spring. Lin Shi and I sat on the terrace, watching the snow fall in the holding warm drinks. We smiled at each other. The regrets of my past have finally been mended in this one. I won the jackpot. Not to squander it, but to protect the only family I have left. All I wanted was for us to have each other. In this apocalyptic wasteland, we are each other's greatest strength. Living in peace is the best ending we could ask for. The frozen apocalypse has kicked out of my home by that scumbag. My life was ended by a snowplow. But now that I'll enjoy watching him and his men tear each other apart over a single moldy. The sunlight outside the window is blinding. I bolt upright in bed, my fingers brushing against soft cotton sheets. The familiar scent of lavender fills the room. This is the apartment I bought with my own savings. I'm no longer in that drafty, dilapidated old hall where the 40 below cold snaps your bones. Trembling, I reach for my phone. The date August 12th on the screen hits me like a bolt of lightning. The global eternal night blizzard, that will last for 3 long years, is still exactly 30. It's 5 days before I catch Tang cheating with his true love, Lin Weiwei. Only 5 days. In my past life, they stole my last pack of biscuits, pushed me out the door, and left me to die under the wheels of a snowplow. In 3 months and 7 days, the sheer ecstasy of rebirth overwhelms me. Tears stream down my face, followed by a bone-chilling calm. Flashbacks of my past life flood my mind. Chang Xiaofei holding Lin Wei, throwing my things into the snow. Lin Yu, I'm the one who renovated this place. An orphan like you doesn't deserve to survive. 3 months into the lockdown, with the power and water, I huddled in the hallway, watching them through the window, sharing the last of my chocolate, their eyes full of mockery. This time, I won't let history repeat itself. They must be plotting right now how to swindle me out of my inheritance before I find out about the affair, and how to steal this apartment. With its perfect heating system, they don't know the blizzard will paralyze the city and turn their money into worthless property, and assets are the only real security in the apocalypse. I sprang into action immediately. Step 1, the Huli property, claiming a job transfer. I quickly listed my downtown 2-bedroom apartment, pricing it 10% below market value. Attracted a buyer within just half a day. The moment the full payment hit I blocked every single way for Chang Xiaohei to contact me. Next, on a suburban hillside, I bought a detached villa with a private yard. It's sheltered and sun-facing, of reinforced concrete. It even has a 50 square meter basement storage room. Most importantly, it's far from the crowds, avoiding the initial madness and chaos of the apocalypse. Step 2, lure the money out of the scum. I got a new phone number and sent a message to Chang Xiaohei. I just got a demolition notice for my parents' old house. The compensation is, I want to buy a villa with a yard, so it's easier to care for our parents after we marry. I'll even put the house in your name. Can you lend me your savings for now? I'll pay you back double once the money arrives. As expected, he took the bait. His eagerness practically leaped off the screen. Xiao Yuan, I'll transfer all my savings to you right now. We'll pick a villa together and live a good life. He probably thinks that with a villa and the money, he'll be set for the apocalypse. Little does he know, I've already prepared a hell for him, with the 500,000 from Chang Xiaohei, the 1.8 million from the apartment, and my parents' 2 million inheritance. Renovating the villa became the top priority. I hired a crew to work 24/7, installing triple-pane vacuum glass and thick insulation on all the windows. I added polyurethane insulation panels to the and reinforced the roof with an automated snow collection system. As for heating, besides upgrading the existing, I also installed a biomass pellet boiler, diesel heaters for wood-burning fireplace, and I even equipped every room with electric heaters and plenty of heat packs. The power system has triple redundancy: solar generators, diesel generators, and 2 hand-cranked generators with hundreds of high-capacity batteries. I've ensured the power stays on even during a blackout. The stockpiling is now in full swing. I contacted a friend in foreign trade to bulk buy survival supplies. In terms of food, 300 cases of compressed, 3,000 pounds of vacuum-sealed rice and flour, and 800 pounds each of dehydrated veggies and freeze-dried meat. It's 500 cases of canned fruit, 200 cases of honey, 200 jars of chocolate energy bars, and high-calorie snacks like nut. Now fill the entire underground storage room. I even stocked up on vegetable seeds, planning to use the second-floor sun to set up a hydroponic area to grow my own vegetables. Water and fuel are the keys to survival. I bought 1,005-liter jugs of purified water. In the yard, I dug a 10-cubic-meter cistern, installed a rainwater collection system, and 3 large water purifiers to ensure a safe and steady supply. As for fuel, besides 3 tons of gas coal, I also hoarded biomass pellets, dry firewood, solid alcohol, and kerosene, enough to last through a long, harsh winter. I didn't cut corners on daily supplies or medicine. I bought 500 sets of thermal underwear, 200 heavy-duty military coats, 100 heavy down duvets, 50 wool blankets, and countless pairs of waterproof snow boots, warm socks, and toilet paper and wet wipes. Feminine hygiene. I stockpiled a 3-year supply of toiletries. As for medicine, I covered everything: fever reducers, antibiotics, and painkillers, to trauma supplies and first aid kit. I even got specialized medication, and hypothermia, stocked up on calcium and anything to ensure my family and I stay. When my best friend Sue Ran heard the news, she quit her job and moved in immediately. So she's perfect for managing our medical supplies and emergencies. I also reached out to my uncle's family in the countryside, using the excuse of needing help that I had them move in early with their own supplies. Every extra person adds to our strength for survival. During this time, Chang Xiaohei kept calling me from different numbers. I ignored them all. I only occasionally texted back, "The villa is being rented. I'll give you a surprise. Rent a place for now. I've wired you 3 months' rent." I specifically rented him an apartment, on the top floor of it had no heating, and the pipes in the building were ancient. I secretly installed .3 high-def cameras in the rooms. Sure enough, I caught him living there with Lin Weiwei. They squandered the 20,000 yuan I sent for rent, feasting every day and buying luxury goods. They had no idea the apocalypse was coming. They were still dreaming about how to blow the demolition payout. 7 days until the blizzard hits. All preparations are complete. The villa is as warm as spring. Supplies are piled high in the storage room. The solar panels glisten in the sunlight. The water in the cisterns is crystal clear. My uncle's family gather around the fireplace in the living room. We enjoy a steaming hot pot. Outside, scattered snowflakes have begun to fall. The forecast predicts heavy snowfall for the coming days. On the monitor, Chang Xiaohe and Lin Weiwei are still arguing about their future life of luxury. Lin Weiwei complains the rent is too high. And the place is too. Chang Xiaohe comforted her, saying that once the relocation money came, they would be living in a villa. He promised to buy her designer bags and designer clothes. While he was busy catering to her, I turned off, scooped up a spoonful of scalding hot, and let a cold smile play on my lips. A few days later, the blizzard arrived as predicted. On the first day, the snow was overwhelming. Huge flakes fell frantically like goose feathers. In less than half, the snow on the ground was over 3 feet deep. City traffic was completely paralyzed. Water and electricity began to cut out. By the second day, there were citywide blackouts and water shortages. The temperature plummeted to 30 degrees below zero. Emergency warnings looped on the news, urging citizens to stay indoors and not go out. But inside my villa, it was a completely different scene. The firewood crackled in the fireplace. I sat around the dining table with Uncle Su Ran's family, drinking mulled wine and eating barbecue. Looking at the silver-clad world outside the window, it felt as if this apocalypse had nothing to do. On the monitor, however, it was already a living hell. The old apartment Chang Xiaohe rented had no heating. After the power cut, it became as cold as thick frost covered the windows. They had been squandering money before and hadn't stockpiled any food or supplies. All that was left in the fridge were a few packs of expired instant and half a bottle of mineral. By the third day, the snow had risen above the windows. The temperature dropped to 40 degrees below zero. Chang Xiaohe and Lin Weiwei were shivering uncontrollably, huddled on the frozen bed. Under their only thin blanket, they finished the last pack of instant noodles and began fighting over the half bottle of icy water. For a single sip of melted ice, Lin Weiwei scratched Chang Xiaohe's face, and he pushed her to the ground, kicking her viciously. By the 5th day, the two on the monitor were so hungry they were seeing stars. Chang Xiaohe ransacked the entire apartment, and finally, in the corner, found a piece of something I had a bun covered in green mold. I had intentionally left it there when I moved. The moment they saw it, they lunged for it like madmen. Lin Weiwei bit down on Chang Xiaohe's wrist, while he grabbed her by the throat. Eventually, Chang Xiaohe snatched the bun, ignoring Lin Weiwei's wails. He devoured it greedily, not even bothering to wipe off them. Watching their hideous faces on the monitor, I felt no emotion at all. The grudge from my past was finally avenged the moment they began to tear at over a piece of mold. By the 10th day, the blizzard showed no sign of stopping. The temperature plummeted to 50 degrees below. On the monitor, Lin Weiwei, ravaged by frostbite and hunger, was at death's door. Chang Xiaohe curled up beside her, his eyes hollow and vague. Suddenly, Lin Weiwei used her last ounce of strength, eaten, that Chang Xiaohe had hidden in his shirt. She stuffed it into her mouth and chewed. When Chang Xiaohe realized what happened, he lunged at her with bloodshot eyes, and the two of them began to brawl once again. They tumbled from the bed to the floor, knocking over the table and smashing the glasses. Finally, Lin Weiwei was shoved into the corner, and she never moved again. Chang Xiaohe stared at her body for a long time, then slowly crawled over to finish eating the bun. I turned off the monitor and never turned it back on. They got exactly what they deserved. In the days that followed, we lived a peaceful life in the villa. The vegetables in the sunroom were thriving, providing us with fresh food. The pantry was well stocked, so we never had to worry about. We spent our days reading and watching movies, occasionally patrolling on snowmobiles to scavenge for useful supplies. 6 months later, the blizzard finally showed signs of subsiding, but the city was still encased in ice. There were very few survivors left. Su Ran and I, along with my uncle's family, formed a small. We began reaching out to other survivors to establish a small survival base. A year later, the temperature gradually began. The snow finally started. We drove into the city to scout the area. As we passed the apartment Chang Xiaohe had rented, I signaled for my uncle to stop. The windows of the apartment were all shattered. The freezing wind howled through the wreckage inside. The bodies of Chang Xiaohe and Lin Weiwei were long since frozen solid. They were huddled together, their faces still bearing the hideous expressions of their struggle. I just gave them a silent glance, and then told my uncle to drive on. Past grudges are like this blizzard. They will eventually pass. And after experiencing death and rebirth, I finally realized that the meaning of survival isn't revenge. It's about cherishing the people by your side and living life to the fullest. July 10th, 2089. In the elegant living room of the Suyu, the real heiress, was sitting on my favorite sofa. She was wearing my limited edition dress and toyed with my jewel. My adoptive mother, Lu Yuru, was dotingly peeling grapes for her. My adoptive father, Su Mingqing, sat nearby, his face grim. You've lived Yeya's life for 18 years. Now that she's back, it's time you give everything back to her. Su Mingqing's words were like ice picks, stabbing deep into my heart. My death and the bone-chilling cold of -70 degrees suddenly surged through my. That's right. I was the fake heiress of the Seuss. I had been pampered by the Seuss for 18 years, always believing I was their biological daughter. Perfect. Devoted to my parent, and deeply attached to this home. Until half a month ago, when Suyu, the real heiress, was. Then, my entire world came. In my past life, Suyu targeted me from the moment she arrived. She mocked me, acting weak and playing the victim. Painting me as a villain who stole her life. My adoptive parents were completely showering Suyu with all their love. They forced me to give up my clothes, my jewelry, even the resources I'd earned on my own. I had to give it all to Suyu. I kept backing down. But they only became more and more demanding. When the apocalypse hit, first came months of extreme heat. No water, no power. And social order. I sensed the crisis early. And secretly stockpiled some. But Suyu schemed to take them. She even framed me for hoarding. Labeling me as self. Without a second thought, my parents. Sided with Suyu. And kicked me into a cold, dark storm. Once the extreme heat subsided to 70 degrees, extreme cold swept the. And everything was frozen. Suyu had all the supplies. And stayed in the warm master bedroom with seeing me as an eyesore. They threw me out into the cold in thin clothes. I struggled in the snow. My limbs freezing, staring at the locked door. And hearing Suyu's laughter from inside. I literally froze to death. Only then did I realize. That a biased family. And a scheming real daughter. Would never have a place for a fake one like me. Concessions. And my kindness. Were all a joke. In this life, I've been reborn 2 months before the apocalypse. It's the day Suyu just returned. When she first demanded I hand over my and the apartment under my name. Jean Ran, did you hear me? Give your master bedroom to Yaya, and that school district apartment, too. Transfer the title to her. Think of it as making amends. Lu Yuru set down her grapes, her voice dripping with impatience. There wasn't a hint of warmth in her eyes. Only blatant favoritism for Suyu. Suyu looked up, a glint of triumph flashing in her eye, yet she feigned a look of distress. I didn't mean to take what's yours. It's just that I've suffered for 18 years. And I really just want a comfortable home. Could you please just do this for me? This innocent act of hers. In my past life, I was kept in and gave in time after. In this life, it only makes me feel that school district apart was bought with my New Year's money, my scholarship, and the allowance my parents occasionally gave me. I saved up bit by bit to buy it. It has absolutely nothing to do with Suyu. The master bedroom has been my room for 18 years. Why should I hand it over the moment she returns? I'm not giving it up, and I'm not. My voice was calm, yet carried an unwavering resolve. The three of them were instantly stunned. Suyu's tears began to fall immediately. Her eyes turned red, looking as if she had been deeply wronged. Sister, how can you say that? We're biological sisters. Biological sisters? I scoffed, staring her straight in the eye. You and I have never even met. We are hardly sisters. The room I've lived in for 18, and the apartment I bought with my. I won't give them up to anyone. If you want something, earn it yourself. Don't try to guilt-trip me. Su Mingqing slammed his hand on the table and stood up to glare at me. Yaya is the Su family's biological daughter. This apartment and this home belong to her all along. You merely usurped her life. Isn't it only right that you return it now? I think we've raised you to be nothing but selfish. You ungrateful, Lu Yuru chimed in, piling onto Su Xingran. I wasted my life raised. Yaya is more pitiful. Isn't it only right that you give in to? You must agree to this today, or else, get out of this house. Su stood to the side, shedding silent tears, but her eyes were full of provocation. She was certain I would cave in, just like before, but what she didn't. Was that I have been reborn. I'm no longer the pushover I used to be. Fine, leaving suits me just fine. I don't want to stay here and, from this day, I, Su Xingran, sever all ties with the Su family. She's your biological daughter. You can love her from now on, we go ever. With that, I turned and went back to my room. I locked the door and quickly gathered my documents. I grabbed my personal belongings and my bank, dragging my suitcase. I ignored my adoptive parents shouting. And Suyu's fake attempts to I walked straight out of the Su family home, breathing the fresh air of freedom. The resentment I'd carried for a lifetime finally vanished, leaving the Su family. Escaping these biased adoptive parents. And the real daughter who constantly was the first step in my survival plan for the. I immediately began organizing a school district department. My personal saving. And part-time income added up to 1.8 million. I knew the extreme heat was just the beginning. The real threat was the 70 below zero extreme cold. To survive, I first needed a safe place, a shelter with excellent insulation. Without a moment's hesitation, I listed the apartment for an urgent, low-price sale. Within 2 days, I had the full. My funds now exceeded 2 million. I finally had the means to survive the apocalypse. Then, I scoured the entire city. I finally settled on a top-floor unit, a renovated luxury flat with an attic. The walls have triple-layered thermal insulation. The windows are 5-layer vacuum explosion-proof. The ceiling and insulation are top-tier. The roof has high-power solar panels. It's equipped with a diesel generator and a gas boiler. There's even a built-in heating fireplace. The community has few residents and a hidden It's a safe house custom-built for the extreme cold apocalypse. After signing the long-term lease, I immediately hired a professional to renovate the house from top to bottom. I upgraded the front door to a grade A security door with double locks. To keep any intrusion, I wrapped the exterior walls in high-density insulation and sealed every gap in the doors and windows. To completely block out the cold, was turned into a climate-controlled. The basement was waterproofed and insulated. to expand storage and add independent heating pipes. With all backup heating equipment ready, I'll stay warm and worry-free during the deep freeze. During construction, the workers joked that I was building a doomsday fortress. I just replied calmly, a girl living alone can never be too safe. I began a massive stockpiling spree, focusing entirely on the extreme cold apocalypse. I bought in bulk directly from factories and wholesalers. Maximum efficiency, wasting not a single second. The food is high-calorie and long-lasting, ensuring total food security in the apocalypse. 40 tons each of rice, flour, and grain, 20,000 cases of compressed, self-heating hot, and 15,000 cases of instant meals like snail noodles. I can stay full without even turning on the stove. 10 tons each of frozen pork and seafood. 8,000 cases of vacuum-packed and canned fish, stored at low temperatures. They're ready to eat anytime. 20 tons each of potatoes, radishes, and cabbage. Dehydrated 8 tons of freeze-dried vegetable seeds of all kinds. I can grow my own food later. Chocolate, beef jerky, and enough high-calorie nuts to fill a room. 600 jugs of water, milk powder, soy milk powder, and juice concentrate. Salt, sugar, oil, soy sauce, and vinegar, a ton of each. Hot pot basic, and every kind of sauce imagine. Even in the apocalypse, I'll eat and drink well. I can't miss a single piece of winter gear. Arctic 50 fleece windbreakers, thick thermal underwear, and 100 sets of cashmere snow boots, thick scarf, 80 sets of hats and gloves. I even stocked up on 300 pairs of 50 down and cotton comforters, 40 electric blanket, 50,000 disposable heat packs, 30 professional sleeping bags rated for -60 degrees, 15 tons of coal, 8 tons of fire, 5 tons of diesel, unlimited solid alcohol, lighters, and candles. To ensure a steady supply of heat, to prepare for any emergent cold and fever medicine, anti-inflammatories, frost, trauma meds, and plenty of antibiotics, iodophor, gauze, masks, and disinfectant, fully stocked first aid kits, military shovels, fire, self-defense knives, flashlights, and headlamps, 120 power banks, solar chargers, and repair tools. I have everything: toilet paper, toiletries, and a 5-year supply of feminine products. Tablets, books, and board games are ready. To kill time during the apocalypse, in just 10 short, all the supplies have arrived. The luxury flat, the attic, and the basement are packed to the brim. Looking at this fortress of a safe, fully stocked with supplies, I feel a profound sense of, in this life, I won't rely on anyone. I'm living only for myself. While I was stockpiling, Suyu and my foster parents still wouldn't leave me alone. Suyu found every way possible to track me down, constantly harassing and targeting me. She intentionally posted on social media, implying I'd embezzled the Su family and abandoned my own parents. She called me selfish, inciting misinformed strangers to condemn me. She even showed up at my apartment complex to cornering me and calling me ungrateful, all to pressure me into handing over my. She even tried to sniff out what I was stockpiling, hoping to steal my supplies when she had the chance. My foster parents backed her up completely, giving her money specifically to use again. They even declared they were disowning me, claiming Suyu was their only daughter. Faced with her constant provocation, I simply blocked her with one. I ignored her refusing to get into any conflict. I focused solely on my preparations for the more she targeted me, the more it proved that my choice to leave the Su family was the right. Meanwhile, Suyu took the money from my foster parents, and, believing one-sided rumors about the apocalypse, thought there would only be extreme heat. She began frantically hoarding ice cream and cold drinks, filling 8 large freezers to the brim. She even installed multiple air conditioners and fans, bragging daily on social media about her unlimited cold drinks. She mocked me, saying the things I stocked were used. She had no idea that after the extreme heat, there would be a deadly -70 degrees Celsius deep freeze. All those cold drinks she will be nothing but worthless blocks of ice. She's only digging her own grave. I watched her walk toward the abyss of her own making, without offering a single warning. She caused my death, and in this life, I have no reason to save an enemy who's out to get me. We all must face the consequences of our own actions. 1 month later, the extreme heat arrived as predicted. Temperatures soared to 131 degrees. Water and power were cut off citywide. Supermarkets were picked clean. The streets were chaotic as violence over supplies became rampant. The apocalypse had truly begun. Inside the Su family, Suyu lived like a king with 8 freezers of cold drinks. He and his adoptive parents holed up inside, using a generator for AC while feasting on ice cream. He even went on the neighborhood group chats, to sell supplies at astronomical 100,000 for a single, 80,000 for an ice cream box, 350,000 for a box. Even when neighbors begged for mercy, he refused to lower his. He even mocked them. His arrogance was beyond belief. An old man knelt and pleaded for a sip of water. But Suyu remained unmoved. He only cared about making. Instead of stopping him, his adoptive helped him sell the supplies, exploit their. In just 2 weeks, the Su family had alienated the entire neighborhood, and even the surrounding area. Everyone loathed them to the core. The air was thick with resentment, but the heat left them too weak to resist. Meanwhile, I stayed in my cool, safe house, with a perfect insulation system and plenty of supplies. I had hot meals every day. Drank warm water. And enjoyed a cool breeze. Life was peaceful and comfortable. I was completely untouched by the heat outside. Suyu somehow got my contact info, He went out of his way to video call. He held up an ice cream bar to show off. His tone was pure provocation. Su Qingran, are you dying of heat yet? Beg me. Beg me, and otherwise, just wait to be roasted. This is what you get for being and leaving this. You deserve to suffer. I watched his smug, insufferable face. I hung up the video call and blocked them for good. No need to pay attention to that clown. His days are numbered anyway. Then, one night, the weather took a sudden, the wind howled, the rain poured. The temperature plummeted before my eyes. From 50 degrees, it dropped to -10, -30, -50, finally bottoming out at -70. Snow blanketed the entire city in an instant. Power and water were completely. The world became a frozen hell. The wind cut like a knife against the skin. 5 minutes outside would freeze you solid. 10 minutes was a death sentence. The lethal deep freeze had officially arrived. The Su family was instantly driven to a corner. The 8 freezers of ice, and all the cold drinks froze into solid block. They were completely inept. The air conditioners and fans were now useless junk. The Su villa was just a standard house. The insulation was terrible. The biting wind seeped through every crack. The house was as cold as an ice cell. They had hoarded nothing but cold drink, not a single piece of warm clothing, and they were running out of food. The cash they had made, was now just a pile of waste paper in the bedroom. How did it get so cold all of a sudden? Suyu was shivering uncontrollably. Her face was deathly pale. She and her adoptive parents tore up the furniture, the curtains, the book, and even the floorboards to burn for warmth, but it was no match for the -70-degree cold. She finally panicked, crying out, "How can it be this cold? Wasn't it supposed to be a heat? My ice cream, my money. It's all." Her parents were full of regret, yet they still blamed me for not warning them, completely forgetting how they had targeted and ostracized. They began desperately begging for help in the group chat. They are offering millions in exchange for food and warm clothing, but they were too ruthless in the past, and they've offended everyone. Not a single person is willing to help. The group chat is full of mockery and talk of instant karma. That's what you get for making blood money and hoarding ice cream for the apocalypse. You're beyond stupid. You all got exactly what you deserved. Suyu brought her adoptive parents, braving the -70-degree cold. They stumbled all the way to my safe house. They banged on the door, crying and begging. Su Qingran, sister, I was wrong. I'll never target you again. Open the door and save us. We're freezing and starving. Please, just a warm coat and a bite to eat. Please, we're family. You can't just leave us to die. It was all my fault. I apologize. Outside, their lips were turning purple from their bodies were stiff, and they looked pathetic. Inside, I sat by the warm fireplace, eating a steaming hot pot and drinking warming ginger soup. It was as warm as spring inside, a sharp contrast to the frozen wasteland outside. I looked through the people, at the 3 people begging. I didn't feel a thing. In my past life, they kicked me out and let me freeze to death. Did they show a single ounce of mercy then? Suyu targeted me and stole my supplies. Did she ever feel a hint of guilt? You reap what you sow. The consequence. They brought this all on themselves. They have no one else. We cut ties long ago. Whether you live or die is none of my. I said those words coldly through the door. Then I drew the curtains, completely ignoring the cries and banging. The noise outside lasted for 2 days and nights, before finally falling silent. Later, I heard from passing survivors. Suyu's family of 3 all froze to death right at my doorstep. They were still clutching the frozen body of little. It was a gruesome sight, yet not a single soul felt sorry. The -70-degree extreme cold lasted for 8 months. Inside my safe house, I had plenty of supplies and constant heat. My days were spent in peace and tranquility. Occasionally, when I encountered survivors, I would offer whatever help I could, provided my own safety was guaranteed. But I always held a firm line. No holy mother complex. I refused to repeat the mistakes of my past. I ate well and kept warm every day, exercised read books, and caught up on. In the midst of a desperate apocalypse, I lived a life of unparalleled comfort and ease. By the spring of the global temperatures gradually began to rise. The ice and snow slowly melted. Rescue teams reached every corner of the. Heartening news came over the radio. The extreme weather had finally come to. Post-disaster reconstruction was in. When the rescuers knocked on my door and saw my abundance of supplies, along with my healthy, radiant struck with dis. I packed a light bag and stepped out of the safe house. The long-lost sunlight fell upon me, warm and brilliant. In this second life, as the fake daughter whose identity was I escaped my biased adoptive parents and avoided the real daughter who targeted me. I survived the deadly indifference and finally welcomed a new life that truly belonged.